Hey guys, it's Brittany with Drops of Jupiter Astrology, and I'm back with another astrology video. Today I really wanted to continue on with the astrology, houses. And so we did the first house and we did the second house. That was a long video and I apologize if it was too long. I'm going to try to make it shorter this time, but get as much information as I can into it for you guys. Before I do, however, I always want to remind you guys, you can always go over to my Facebook page, facebook.com/Drops of Jupiter Astrology, and you can always click book now or send me a message. You can request readings, chart reports, anything like that. If you want to know more specific information pertaining to you or someone you love, that's where you're going to get that information, because these videos obviously are more general, because it's, hard for me to hold up a chart, especially if I don't know you, and talk to you about it. So that would be where you would contact me and, get that kind of information. And also you can always follow me on Instagram at astro by B. So it's their underscores, astro_by_B on Instagram, and you can follow me. I try to put up as much fun information and stuff for you guys to, kind of chew on. So please feel free to follow me there. So now I'm going to do the third and fourth house today, just because I feel like I took a little bit too long to make this video to give you guys third house. So I want to give you third and fourth house, and then I'm going to try to do then fifth and sixth. So at least you have a little bit more information at a time, and you can stop and start it and play it and, soak it up. So third house, or maybe we should recap. First house, we learned that that's the ascendant sign. Whatever sign is in the first house, that's your ascendant, and that sets up your whole chart. So if you're a Virgo rising, Virgo's in your first house, Libra's going to be, Libra, right? Yes, sorry. Brain fart. See, it's okay. We just moved into Pisces, so I'm a little bit, and I am a Pisces, so that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. If you're a Virgo rising, Libra's going to be in your second house. Scorpio's going to be in your third. Sag is going to be in your fourth, so on and so forth. So that's how it sets up your whole chart, because, it goes in order from whatever sign. So even though Aries rules the first house, Aries is not always there. And that speaks to your physical body, and, it speaks to, the energy that you're ascending to. Second house, we discussed, was about what you value. It's ruled by Venus, right? Venus value. And what you love in life, and money and finances. So, that was the last video, and it spoke to, work ethic and how you deal with your money. Third house now. Third house, it rules grade school, like fundamental education. So you're gonna look at nursery school all the way through high school. That's ruled by your third house. Higher education, however, college and moving up, that's ruled by the ninth house, and we will certainly get there. But if you look at nursery school all the way through high school, that is going to be in your third house. So it rules that. It also has a big contributing factor and rules siblings and your relationships with your siblings. So depending on what planets are in your third house, so say for example I have Pluto in my third house, so it put a little bit of a strain on my relationships with my siblings. They're either good or they're not, and there's no kind of middle ground. And I feel as though I need to be the one in charge. I am the first child, so, and they're much younger than me, so, that kind of gives you an example of, how it dictates your relationship with your siblings. Then it also rules like cousins, extended type family like that, and neighbors. So the community is also in your third house. It also rules your perceived childhood, how you perceived your childhood, the experiences that you had within your childhood, how you internalized them, because we always have to remember that first to fourth house is your childhood. It's like birth through adolescence. And so, that perception of your childhood is all ruled by the third house. This house is very important because third house, what it's best known for is being the intellectual house, the communication house. Mercury rules it, and it's Gemini lives in this house. So, Gemini, Mercury, communication, and, intellectual ability, writing, reading, all of that type of stuff, and any type of communication is ruled by the third house. And so how and what you have in this house is going to affect how you communicate, which is probably the biggest staple of this house. Knowing how you communicate with others is really, really important in life. I have, let me pull up my notes here that I kind of wrote about each house. It takes so long for me to go through each house because I like to be so thorough. So, I'm going to give you just some examples. If you had Aries in your third house, this is going to make you very individual, like a very individual person, somebody that wants to be their own person and be independent and have a very fast thinking mind. If you remember, even where our Mercury is in the chart speaks to the mind because Mercury rules the mind. But since Mercury rules the third house, you also look at what sign you have in the third house. So Aries in the third house is very similar to having Mercury in Aries. Your mind is quick. You're an independent thinker. You have aggressive communication. You want to get your point across. You're very smart. You're very clear with reasoning. You're fast at it. There's no lag. Whereas when it comes to third house in Taurus, this is very similar to having Mercury in Taurus. Your thoughts are slower and they're static and they take a long time to process information and they need it repeated several times. They're very practical and constructive when they speak. Their communication is direct and it's slow, and they try to speak beautifully because remember, this is ruled by Venus. And they speak about things that they value. They care to talk about how to make money, things of that nature. So very Venus-esque conversation is going on, and it's very slow and thought out. Whereas third house Gemini, this is where Gemini lives. It loves to be here. And, there's a lot of clarity when they speak. They're excellent communicators. This is a gift from Spirit if you have Gemini in its natural native third house, you're just going to have this uncanny ability with speaking to people with precision, and to do so in a way that you're able to speak to different types of people and different groups of people in different ways based on your crowd. So because Gemini is the twins, they're able to conform or change or, assimilate or stand out or whatever they need to do to get their point across the best to whomever they're speaking to. If somebody is really outgoing and funny, they're able to mirror that. However, if they're speaking to somebody that's quiet and very grounded or reserved, they're going to be able to mirror that as well. And it's an amazing gift to have such precision with communication. So that's an example. And, if we look at Virgo, which is also ruled by Mercury, this communication, even though, it's exalted, in Mercury's exalted in Virgo, if Virgo was in the third house, it's similarly, you're going to see that because Virgo is so meticulous and they pay attention to detail, they tend to have this edge, let's call it, when they're speaking. And, it can almost be a little bit of a strange position, or it can be weakening in a way as much as it can be empowering, just because, Virgo is ruled by Mercury, but Mercury, Virgo is not the same precise communicator. When we get to the sixth house, we'll see that Virgo deals with health. Virgo deals with, somewhat with intellect for sure, but work ethic, and just being really, really precise. So, they sometimes can become hypochondriacs because they're constantly speaking about their health, and they're constantly wanting to speak about practical issues and routine, and almost dumbing down issues or beating a dead horse, if you will, with certain things. And, sometimes people feel like, even the person with Virgo in the third will feel like, why do I, feel like I get this, reaction, or why do I feel like I'm so redundant? They almost can't stop themselves from, being so meticulous about certain areas. And, so it can be helpful, but it can also be a hindrance. You have to remember, like, some of our worst qualities can be our best qualities as well. So not to say that, it's good or bad, but somebody, a Virgo in third house that's dealing in the health industry, they're going to be able to be very precise and meticulous about, what they're speaking about to a patient. Whereas if you have Virgo in the third house and you're not in the medical industry and you're always talking about it, you're not using that ability the same way. And you may end up then start using it in a negative way. So that's just some examples of what third house is going to bring with the different signs there, and of course based on what planets are there and the conversations that the planets are having within your third house is going to really dictate speech, how you speak, how you write, and, if you have Pisces, Neptune in third house, you're potentially going to be an artist. Whereas if you, like I said, Neptune in third house, you're potentially going to be an artist. Just like if you had Pisces in third house. It all depends on that. But that's just to give you some idea of third house, that we're mainly focusing on communication here, and but it speaks to a lot of other things. Now with fourth house is an incredibly important, pull my notes, it's an important house. Why? Because this is the house of home. This is like where it all goes down, in my opinion. You know, it's like when you grow up, some of your fondest memories or some of your worst memories are from when you were a kid at home with your parents. You know, and as somebody, you know, that's becoming a therapist, I can tell you that, you know, 99.9% of the cases that I get, it's generally like, oh, well, this happened to me as a kid. This is where I'm struggling, and I've brought it into my adult life. And so, you know, the way your home life goes down, so to speak, really affects, you know, and dictates the rest of, you know, your how you internalize things. So, you know, third and fourth house, they are important because fourth house is the perception of home and the fourth house is the home. And this really sets up for, you know, are you an anxious person? Did you have a lot of anxiety? Did you feel safe or comfortable? You know, if you had like third house and Cancer in the third house, that's a very, anytime we see Cancer anywhere pretty much, except for fourth house, it's a lot of, you know, karma. And so this is, you know, bogging you down. So, you know, fourth house is very important that, you know, it's our parents, but it's mainly our mother. It's ruled by the moon. The moon is the mother. So, you know, somebody that has, like Taurus in the fourth house, well, that's a really nice position because Taurians, they love to be home and cooking and, you know, cleaning and making things nice. So they're really caring for their children and their physical development, and they're devoted, and, you know, they're traditional and they're strict, but they're there, and it's just this, you know, Venus and the moon are just like yummy together. So, you know, it's just like a really lovely, beautiful environment for children. Whereas, let's say we have Scorpio in the fourth house. Scorpio is a really hard placement for fourth house. Scorpio is kind of a really hard placement for a lot of things, but you know, fourth house, when we pertain it strictly to our home life and our parents and our mother, you know, it indicates that like our parents, one or both, were not healthy communicators, or that didn't provide a healthy environment for the children. They weren't supportive. You know, Scorpio just it brings down the moon, so to speak. It's just a really difficult it's just a really difficult placement. These people, the children that grow up with, you know, with fourth house Scorpio, you know, there's not a lot of forgiving, there's not a lot of comforting, there's not a lot of kindness, there's not a lot of like, you know, snuggling the baby. The emotional connections are lacking. It leaves these children it brings them into adulthood feeling lackluster, like they just constantly are hungry for that emotional love that they were starved of as a child, and it just, you know, they just constantly feel like this wasn't enough. I need more. I want, you know, I want a bond, and I want a reason to smile, and I want to feel like I have roots, and, you know, they just feel like they were just very manipulated, and it was not enjoyable. It's a difficult childhood. So you can see, depending on what sign you have, never mind what planets are there, it's already set the tone for your home life. And so, you know, it makes for either a difficult existence or it makes for a pleasant existence, which really sets the tone for, you know, the rest of the zodiac wheel. That's going to speak to the rest of your life, marriage, once we get into the 7th house and things of that nature. You know, how you leave home, whether you feel damaged or you feel secure, is going to be a big indicator of, you know, how you're going to feel going out into the world, you know, and feeling like, well, I never felt like I could communicate at home, so I'm not great at it, which could, you know, help or hinder you. And, you know, so these houses are really important for these reasons. So you have to remember that this is where energy manifests, right? The houses. So, you know, like I said, if you have, you know, Mercury in 3rd house, where, you know, it's happy, you know, you're going to have a very great articulate speaking sense, and, you know, and you're going to be able to communicate with ease. Whereas if you've got Pluto in the 3rd house, you know, you have some inhibitions about communication, and you feel like, you know, maybe you're not being taken seriously, or you have some real self-conscious issues with communication. So depending on what planets are there, it even sets the stage even more, and it gets very detailed as to you know, what was going on with your childhood. When we add 1 through 4, these houses together, we really get a good picture of, well, you know, I'll use myself as an example. My 4th house, I have a stellium, and which is 3 or more planets. I have 4 planets in my 4th house, and they are all squaring 3 other planets in my 7th house. And I have Pluto in the 3rd house. And, you know, it all comes together that I have Sagittarius in the 4th, and I have a Scorpio in the 3rd, which is an indicator that my childhood was very nerve-wracking. I didn't ever feel like I was comfortable. It was hard to feel like I was at home. I felt uneasy, and I didn't feel grounded. I moved a lot as a child from one house to the next. I felt as though my you know, from my 3rd house being in Scorpio, I felt as though, you know, my childhood was really underhanded in the way that, you know, my parents did business, so to speak, because they were divorced. And so I have the sun and the moon squared, which indicates that my parents did not get along, and they did not get along. And the square between the sun and the moon not only indicates that they didn't get along, but it indicates that it affected me deeply, and that's my 3rd house. The perception of my childhood was I was nervous all the time. And so these are the types of things that an astrologer would look at the chart and go, oh, okay, so you were very anxious and you were very nervous, and this has kind of set the tone for your whole life, that you kind of go through life feeling a lot of anxiety. Yes, absolutely. You know, and so that is, you know, where that, and it manifests in my physical body because Virgo's in my 1st house. So right there you can see how we can get a pretty good idea of the core of somebody by just looking at the 1st or the 4th house. And so it's really, really important. So next video, I'm going to do 5 and 6. The 5th house is all about fun, so it's a much lighter topic. And 6th house is, health and work ethic and things of that nature. So we're going to kind of get into that next week. And, you guys can put them all together and, print out a chart and, label your houses and what they rule. And, piece by piece, you'll start to really say, okay, 4th house is home, and the 3rd house is communication, 2nd is money, finance, beauty, things I value, 1st house is physical body, sets the stage. So, you'll all start to pinpoint it in there, and it'll be really, really cool when it all clicks, because it's super cool when it does. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out. Remember, if you have any questions that you need to ask, I am so happy to be able to, share my love of astrology with the world, because it really does inspire compassion and help everybody to feel more accepting of themselves and others. And that is just exactly what our world needs right now. So please, any questions? I'm not asking for money. I just want, everybody to feel as though they understand who they are and the people they love, because it's just going to make for a better world. So please message me with any questions. I'm happy to spend any time and answer them for you. Facebook.com/dropsofjupiterastrology.com. Please email me there, or dropsofjupiterastrology@gmail.com. You can just directly email me there. And you can always follow me on Instagram, Astro by B. So please feel free to reach out, and I hope you guys have an amazingly wonderful day, and always remember to inspire compassion. Take care, guys.